Well, hello. My name is Mr. Anderson, and for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk to you about population growth and urbanization, and why and how this is connected to our ongoing studies with globalization. Now, to get started, a good question you want to ask yourself is what are the ongoing demands of a growing population? You might think to yourself, isn't this a good thing to have a growing population? Because after all, if you have more people, that means you can spend more money, you have more tax money. But you see in the image on the top left side, it's an image from an Interstate 35 West, that collapsed. But you want to ask yourself, which scenario is more applicable for why this interstate collapsed? Was it because of the federal government not providing enough financial support to do the basic maintenance and repair work to the overpass? Or was the overpass on Interstate 35 West collapsing because it was being overused? You may want to pause our podcast at this point to think about your answer. All right, now that you've got a chance to think about your answer, it's time to move on to looking at population growth in a more holistic, big picture point of view. When you look at the history of world population, for about 99% of human history, our population has not grown all that much because it was largely restricted because of disease and low food supply, with surplus being limited. However, because of the Industrial Revolution in the mid 18th century, our standard of living increased drastically. And that increase of our standard of living made possible because of better quantities and quality of food. There was cleaner, safer drinking water, safer housing and sanitation, and there was radical advancements in medical understanding. This graph here actually gives you an idea as to just how drastic our population has grown in the past several thousand years. It's right around the 1750s where population has grown really fast, so it leads us to our current state in 2017, where there is over 7 billion of us on the planet. When you're looking at a population, you want to know a few important terms. First one is called doubling time. Doubling time is an explanation on how long a population in a certain region takes to double up over. Generally speaking, doubling time in the beginning took thousands and thousands of years, and then it took thousands and thousands of more years for the population to double up. But the doubling time is getting smaller now because there is more of us. And speaking about more people, in the world today, there are 7 countries that are really, really big when it comes to their populations. And that is China, India, the United States of America, Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Brazil. All of these countries have really large populations. And all these countries do have a role and a meaningful impact on globalization. But with population and globalization as well, you also want to know what density is. Population density is how many residents are living in 1 square kilometer. As an example, where this podcast is being filmed in the Metro Vancouver area, for every square kilometer, there is 856 people, according to Statistics Canada. But that's what's here in the developed country, Canada. We also want to know what fertility rate. And fertility rate is the average number of children each woman will give birth to. Replacement fertility level rate is also the average number of children a woman needs to give birth to so that particular country can maintain its current population. However, in Africa is the continent that has the highest fertility rate. However, Africa does not have many stable governments. Africa does have a lot of society issues. When we're looking at population too, according to the United Nations, the global population grows by 1.14% every year, which means cumulatively there are 76 million new people on our planet every year. And currently, according to the United Nations, our population will grow to 10 billion by the year 2100. But these current projections indicate that our population will not double up again currently. Once we finish looking at our population growth, we want to think about urbanization. Urbanization is a trend that started in the 20th century, just like how the Industrial Revolution started in the 18th century. Urbanization was a movement of citizens who are moving away from the rural into an urban setting. An urban setting is a place where you have a population of 2,500 or more people, such as Fort Langley. An urbanized setting, such as a city, will have at least 50,000, such as Richmond, British Columbia. The entire corridor along number 3 road, where the SkyTrain is located, is an urbanized setting, along with Steveston and Hamilton. But a mega city is a city that has over 10 million residents. Toronto is the only mega city in Canada. This night picture actually shows where urban populations are located based upon light concentration. The brighter the lights, the more people there are, such as in Europe, Middle East, India, East Asia, and continental United States. But the very largest city in the world is currently Tokyo. And Tokyo is so immense that you can't even take a picture of its skyline. It's too much, too big. But despite the impressiveness of Tokyo, with its cleanliness, the technology, the efficiency of the society that runs that city, you may want to pause your podcast again at this point and think to yourself your answer to this question. Is there a difference between a mega city, or is there no such difference, because a mega city can also mean a mega mess? You can think about this question now. Alright, had you thought about your answer? Is this what you had in mind? This is a slum in Jakarta, Indonesia. This is an example of how mega cities are not all Tokyo. Sometimes they can also be mess. Too many people that are living there. The city cannot sustain itself. And that's how even the most wealthiest cities, such as Vancouver, can have poor people. But within cities like Vancouver, though, you have suburbanization. Suburbanization is an American developed trend that started after World War II. Suburbanization are smaller, not concentrated urban cities that surround a larger city. Suburbs are built around the use of families using their car, and they'll use their car to drive everywhere. Suburbs, however, are not always cheaper. In some ways, it actually is more expensive to live in a suburb because of the car. In Metro Vancouver, we have suburbs. This picture shows what the downtown core of Metro Vancouver looks like. Dense lots of options, lots of variety. But people are not obsessed in wanting to own land or space, nor are they wishing to use a lot of their cars because, well, you just don't want to. But if we go back to the biggest city in Canada, which is Toronto, that's what urban sprawl looks like in the suburb called Markham. Shocking, isn't it? This is what urban sprawl looks like in the United States. Los Angeles, with traffic. Or in Atlanta. Suburbs are car-built societies. But the bigger you make the roads, doesn't mean you have less traffic. Does not mean that at all. But to wrap this up now, we want to think about housing. As we talked about mega cities, mega messes, suburbanization, population density, poor areas in cities are called slums. Their standard of living is very, very poor. Slums can be found in every continent in the world. And in fact, nearly 1 of every 3 city dwellers in the world today live in slums. And slums can be characterized by overcrowding, little or no employment opportunities, poor safe drinking water, poor sanitation, and if the healthcare services do exist, they are woefully inadequate. I'd like to quickly state that the images that were used in this podcast come courtesy of the Creative Commons Open License Agreement. Thank you for listening.